This is Southern Cross News with Rick Fontaine.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and Labor leader Bill Shorten have arrived in the state's northwest, selling their candidates to voters ahead of the upcoming Braddon by-election. Both sides are promising millions to fix highways as the battle for the marginal seat heats up.
Taking to the stage in a show of force, the Prime Minister and Labor leader launched their candidates into the battle for Braddon.
Brett Whiteley has delivered for Braddon. He will deliver even more in the future.
If you think that your local community is more worthwhile than your local multinational, then you vote Justine and you vote Labor.
Liberal contender Brett Whiteley kicked off his official campaign with this promise.
I'm Brett Whiteley and I'm not a dual citizen.
While his Labor opponent had this to say.
Brett Whiteley, if he gets elected, he's not going to go there fighting for more money for our hospitals and our schools.
Addressing around 200 party faithful in Wivenhoe, Mr Whiteley made his pitch to be returned to the job, talking up his record as the former Braddon MP and business confidence under the Liberals. And there was pork barrelling on both sides. The PM pledged $70 million for highway upgrades across the electorate and a $4 million jobs training package. Labor made its official bid in Devonport, promising to move Centrelink staff to the region.
We're going to deliver an extra 50 Centrelink staff based here in Devonport and in Burnie to cut waiting times and improve services.
A move he says will create $3.5 million in local economic benefits per year. Still 20 more days for voters to make up their minds before July 28.
And our reporter Sean McComish is on the Braddon campaign trail and joins us now live from Queenstown. Good evening, Sean. The West Coast is set to be front and centre of the campaign tomorrow.
Thanks, Rick. That's right. Both Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and Liberal candidate Brett Whiteley are here for a Politics in the Pub session here tonight in Queenstown. It's a chance for West Coasters to have their say in the by-election campaign. So far, it's been very focused on the northwest coast. Now, the campaigning will continue here tomorrow with both the Premier and Prime Minister expected to make a mining-related announcement. Back to you.
Thanks to Sean. Sean McComish here joining us in Queenstown. Well, there's been extensive and sometimes heated discussions on Bruny Island today as residents sought answers over their ferry service. A new operator is taking over in less than 3 months, but there are concerns about the introduction of a booking system and the capacity to deal with increasing passenger numbers.
A community hall overflowing with Bruny Island residents today.
If everyone doesn't mind just moving around a bit.
Who came to get more answers on their new ferry service. An anxious time for the community in the face of the biggest change the island has seen in recent years.
It's a huge change that's happening on the island. There's a lot of people that are very concerned about that change.
Adelaide-based SeaLink recently won the 10-year contract to take over the ferry service. With tourism growing, it hopes to bust long queues by introducing a booking system for 80% of each service. But in some cases, that will leave only 7 spots for people who haven't booked.
The way that you currently access the ferries, you can continue to access. It's just that we'll be introducing a booking system as well.
Why?
I think it's important for people who want certainty and obviously the residents want choice, and we'll be looking at those 2 issues.
These concept designs have been released for 2 single-deck ferries set to come online over the next few years. SeaLink says they'll operate with higher frequency, but they have a much lower capacity than the current Mirimbina.
So 2 36-car vessels are not going to cut it, no. even now, at this time of the year, let alone any time.
The obligations are to meet the reasonable needs of the customers on Bruny Island. That's what the obligation is. So as demand grows, that there'll be adjustments.
I'm a bit shaky because, you know, I'm not getting much sleep at the moment over this. But
prominent tourist operator Rob Pennicott put in his own bid to run the service. He says if capacity issues aren't solved, it will cost the community.
and that will mean 23% less right through the island's businesses. That will equate to millions of dollars and many, many jobs.
Are you concerned, though, that you're taking over a bit of a lemon contract?
Not at all. It's a wonderful service to meet the needs of the community, both residents and tourists, and we'll be doing our very, very best to make sure we're delivering on a great service.
SeaLink will face an early test when it officially takes over this ferry service on the 23rd of September. 1 week later, a busy school holiday period begins.
There is going to be transition, so safety. We'll have staff who'll be managing people in queues. We'll be watching if people are missing ferries. On day one, yes, it will be interesting.
But for this little island that's become a big destination, there's change in the wind. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania Police has issued a warning to motorists to be cautious following heavy snowfall and strong winds in several parts of the state. Up to 12 centimetres of snow was recorded at Great Lake in the Central Highlands, with Ben Lomond also seeing a heavy blanket, much to the delight of skiers. Cradle Mountain guests also woke to snow, with several cars covered overnight. Police say updates on road closures can be found on its Community Alerts webpage. The Tasmania Museum and Art Gallery has officially kicked off NAIDOC Week today, celebrating the history, culture and achievements of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The theme for this year, Because of Her, We Can.
We're celebrating Aboriginal women, and that includes, women who have played a significant role in the community in the past, right through to today. So, celebrating their resilience and strength and determination.
The museum is running activities and workshops through until July 13. Well, tonight, thousands of Hobart voices are united for the 14th annual Big Sing Bonfire for the Festival of Voices. The City Choir bracing the cold, with Lord Mayor Ron Christie lighting the fire to kickstart this year's main song, Happy by Pharrell Williams. The bonfire is now held on a Sunday to make the event more accessible to families. The festival continues until July 15. Wine experts from across the country have sampled the best of Tasmania with a tour of the state's vineyards, bars and cellars. Wine Tasmania says the program increases interest in the local industry and is a boost for businesses.
These wine experts are tasting what Tasmania has to offer.
Well, this program is all about getting wine buyers from around Australia to Tasmania so that they can see for themselves the place, they can meet the producers and they can understand what it is about Tasmania that makes our wine so special.
Well, it's just an extraordinary place. I mean, landscape to start, and the fact they're still discovering places to grow vines, but then the wines that are already here are just absolutely shining at the moment.
In its 5th year, Wine Tasmania invites sommeliers, winemakers and business owners in the industry to sample wines and meet local producers, spending 2 days swirling, smelling and sipping their way through 80 local wines, starting today at the Coal Valley and heading to the Derwent Valley tomorrow.
I've been a sommelier for 15 years, and the most I've always learned about a region or a place is by actually going there, treading the earth, having a glass, sharing a story with some really cool winemakers.
So one of the things that this allows us to do is in a very short period of time show them a really good cross-section of Tasmanian wines. So in terms of the benefit, it's giving that profile, but also these guests are in a position where they can actually purchase those wines and they can list them on some of the key restaurant lists.
The group, featuring 11 mainlanders learning about the state. This year's program received more than 100 applications. Ruby Kamain, Southern Cross News.
South Hobart is back in the race for the NPL title after beating Olympia 4-1 today. In other matches, Kingborough has jumped into 6th spot on the table after downing Northern Rangers 5-2. Meanwhile, Daniel Sizen and Noah Mees combined to open the scoring for Launceston City against Devonport Strikers, but the Lacko Seljak Cup champion returned fire with 3 second-half goals, including a penalty by Braden Mann to finish up 3-1 winners. And Clarence has had a nightmare at KG5, going down 9-0 to Hobart Zebras. Matthew Sanders booted 4 goals in the one-way traffic. Richie Porte has been lucky to avoid a crash in the peloton during the opening stage of the Tour de France. Although the Tasmanian stayed on his bike, Porte slipped well down the order.
A Tour de France crown may be Richie Porte's holy grail, but there's more riding on this tour than ever before.
You seem a lot more relaxed going into this Tour de France than previous years. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it's definitely a fair assessment. You know, my wife and baby boy are the biggest things in my life now, not just cycling.
But that relaxed mindset soon turned to stress. In just the first stage of the 3,500 kilometre tour, Port ran straight into trouble.
Crash. A few BMC jerseys caught up in amongst that. Richie Port is there in the middle, 81.
After initial fears Port had been struck down, the Tasmanian emerged unscathed. The real damage was in the time delay, losing momentum and forcing an all-team effort to get back to the peloton.
Simon Gerrans, if need be, will have given his bike to Richie Port as there's riders from BMC dropping back.
The day one drama didn't end there, with another high-profile name going off-road.
The bike going over the top of the barrier. There is Froome in a ditch.
Port made one last effort to wind back the gap, but there was no chance of catching Fernando Gaviria.
Gaviria on debut. It's the Colombian who gets there.
The frenzied finale means Port starts stage 2, 51 seconds behind.
At least for him, the other main contenders all are in the same situation through one thing and another.
2 Tasmanians are into tonight's women's eights final of the Revenham Challenge Cup at the Henley Royal Regatta after winning their semi-final against Yale University. Sarah Hoare and Siona Wilson are part of the Aussie crew, which will take on the University of London in the final. After going down by 14 points to the undefeated Bendigo last night, the Launceston Tornadoes have bounced back in today's game. Ellie Collins and Lauren Nicholson scoring 32 points each in the side's victory over Melbourne. The Tawns are now 6th on the ladder with 10 wins and 7 losses. The Northwest Thunder has finished the weekend with a win and a loss, going down to Bendigo last night before beating Melbourne by 20 points today. While the Hobart Chargers took the spoils in Albury-Wodonga last night, the women's side getting up by 21 points and the men's side now sits 2nd on the ladder after a 19-point win. Craig Moller, the standout, hitting 28 for the game.
Good evening. We've had a windy day with strong southwesterlies over the state. Launceston reached the state's high of 14 degrees. It was 8 in Hobart, 12 in Burnie and 13 in Devonport. King Island, Lowhead and St Helens all hit a top of 13 degrees. It reached 12 on Flinders Island and at Smithton, 11 at Friendly Beaches, 10 degrees at Ouse and Strawn, Maria Island 9, Grove 7 and there was a maximum temperature of 1 degree at Lyoini. Speckled low clouds streamed over Tasmania from the southwest with overcast conditions in the west and south of the state. Zooming out, a long low to mid-level cloud band extended from central Queensland to New Zealand, with the rest of the mainland relatively cloud-free. Moving ahead to tomorrow, the chart shows a high over South Australia extending over most of the country and a surface trough along the central coast of WA. Winds west to southwesterly, reaching 35 knots about the lower east coast early in the day. And with those winds come a few warnings for you. There is a gale warning current for eastern waters between St Helens Point and Southeast Cape, a strong wind warning for the rest of the coast as well as southeast inshore waters. We've also got a small craft wind alert for the Central Plateau Lakes. There's a minor flood warning for the Huon and a flood watch for the Derwent River Basin. Now let's take a closer look around the state tomorrow. Hobart, mostly cloudy, a top of 12. Showers for Dover, 11. Ouse, cloudy and 10 degrees. Launceston, a frosty start but a partly cloudy day, 13 the top. Devonport, mostly sunny and 13. Scottsdale, morning frost with a top of 12. A mostly sunny day for Burnie, 13 degrees. Strawn, showers, 11. Stanley, partly cloudy and 12. St Helens and Swansea, both partly cloudy with a top of 13. Ross, a partly cloudy 11. Looking ahead to Tuesday, showers in the west, south and on the Bass Strait Islands with morning frost about the north and northeast. Much the same on Wednesday with the possibility of those showers spreading statewide. And more showers on Thursday for the north and west of the state, but mainly fine elsewhere. Now let's take a look around the rest of the country tomorrow. A sunny day for Perth and Darwin. Brisbane, mostly sunny. A cloudy 15 degrees for Adelaide, partly cloudy and 17 for Sydney. And a few showers easing with a top of 14 for Melbourne. Right now in Hobart it is 7 degrees and cloudy, Launceston 9 and partly cloudy and Devonport the same. So if you're heading out tonight, hopefully it won't rain. It should be a good night if you're going to Festival of Voices or anything else that's on, Rick.
Thanks, Britt. Certainly very cool here in the studio tonight, so I need to rug up. Well, that is all your news for now. Join Joe Palmer and the team tomorrow night from 6 p.m. For now, good night.